All right, good morning. So, guess what happened? We had the GOAT of all data breaches happen. That's what happened. So, let's talk about that. And this is probably good. This might be a good review for some of you and an eye opener for others, still, depending on sort of what your level of understanding is of, the basics of personal security when it comes to online accounts. So, quick recap. So what is a data breach? A data breach is basically what happens when the database that stores user information is leaked somehow. So that would be somebody gets into it by some means. Now these methods could vary still. It could be an insider that leaks the database for money or other reasons. It could be someone hacked into it, gained unauthorized access, and then basically, they're selling it on like the dark web or whatever, right? Or just some information brokers, shady ones, obviously. So, how is that different? So, it's funny because I was talking to a little buddy here who was asking about, oh, well, if I make my password like really, 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 really long, then it'll be good, right? Well, that's two different things that we're talking about. So the idea of having a long string password, a string being characters of a text, alphanumeric characters, having that be really long will help prevent it against something called a brute force attack. So basically that's where it just tries all of the different combinations that your password could be over and over again, right? So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or something, this is gonna figure that out pretty quick. But if you have it even 1A, 2B, 3C, 4D, up to 32 characters long or something, or the first 32 digits of pi in scrambled order or whatever, right? Then it becomes more and more difficult to crack, right? If you add in letters as well as numbers, if you add in symbols as well, then the difficulty becomes a lot more and more, right? Because for every extra digit, it requires more compute and more time. Now, this is only true with classical computers. By classical computers, I mean the ones that pretty much everybody has right now still, right? So, now with quantum computers, this paradigm actually changes still. So quantum computers can theoretically, crack these long string passwords in a different way. So, yay, look forward to that. Yeah. Also, side note, apparently quantum computers are getting very, very, very better, very faster. So, there are quantum resistant algorithms for encryption. But they definitely need more widespread adoption and widespread usage. So anyway, so back to this data breach. So what's happened here is that this is the biggest data breach of all time that's happened. I'm hearing numbers between 16 billion and 30 billion accounts, which is outrageous. That's basically everyone, everywhere, all the things. Google, Apple, Facebook, you name it, right? So GitHub even, that's pretty savage when you think about it, because it used to be Google has not really been involved in many data breaches like this still. Same for Apple. Those have been very few. They've been pretty well known for their security. So to see those names pop up in this one, it's what's going on, right? So that being said, there are apparently some duplicates from past data breaches that are involved in this one as well. So it's not yet entirely clear how many of these are new accounts and how many of these are recycled from previous ones, but it's still an enormous number. I mean, the biggest one that I could remember prior to this was about 1 billion accounts, and that was the one in India where their national ID service got breached and leaked. So this would still be 16 to 30 times bigger than that, which is crazy, basically. So anyways, so what can you do about this still, right? There's a few things that you can do. Okay, so I don't know, like depending on, again, what kind of news you read. If you read dorky tech news like I do, you will have heard or read many articles talking about, the death of the password and, phasing out password. And this is like exactly the reason why they want to do that, right? And there are alternatives to just having a password still, of course, right? So one of them is to use, actually, before I get into that, so to support your password still, if at all possible, like if the service provider offers it, you should use something called 2FA, or two-factor authentication, or sometimes multi-factor authentication. And basically what this means is that you have a second password that you have to put in. Now it's not a password that you would remember or write down or store in a password manager or anything like that. It's actually constantly being generated. A new password is being generated every minute on an application that you have on a device, right? So basically that is sort of like kind of what saves you bacon in this case still, because that's not a thing that can be stored in a database and it can't be retrieved, right? It's constantly being generated. So it's that's done with a key pairing, right? So both sides will have the key, and then you can generate them, right? And then you can validate them. So now, next thing, so what do we do to replace passwords, right? So you could use biometrics, right? So on-device biometrics would probably be the way to go at this point, so that there isn't like a stored copy again, right? So this is things like your Touch ID or your Face ID, right? How you use your finger or your thumb to open up your phone, or just look at it in some cases, right? So connecting that to your accounts and being able to use that instead would be a step in the right direction. Another way would be to actually use a physical sort of like authentication device, like a YubiKey, for example, right? Where you actually have a little thing that looks kind of like a USB stick, and you'd have to plug it in to your device that you're logging in from, either your phone or your computer, and then it would allow access still, right? And then that, again, that's using like cryptographic keys in order to accomplish this, and just the device is a method of storing them, right? Now obviously there are downsides to both of these. So the possible downsides for the biometric ones, like especially on device, would be some sort of a change to your method of identification, right? So let's say you get like third-degree burns on your hands and like your fingerprints are gone, or you get in a bar fight and like you have your eyes get smashed up or something, right? And your phone doesn't recognize you when you look at it, right? So there's going to have to be backup methods, right? It's a tough cookie to crack here still, like to really get it to the point where the ability for these types of things to happen is completely eliminated. It might never actually be the case. It always seems to be a bit of a cat and mouse game, between the guys who are trying to set up sort of the way to authenticate without, in the safest way possible, and then the guys who are trying to, get the deets, crack the codes, all that stuff, get your infos. Oh dear, it's early. It's too early for this. So anyways, biggest data breach of all time. What can or should you do still? So one, you can go and you can check sort of your email addresses. Oh, and actually, speaking of email addresses, this is another good one still. So there are some services that offer no password login by sending you an email link, right? And that's actually a pretty good way to go about it as well. That being said though, one of the things that you can change is your email address as well, right? Because sometimes that can be, I guess, an identifier as well too, right? So you can change your password, change your email address, and this doesn't mean like you have to change it everywhere, but also splitting up your email addresses or having more than one email address. Not like you have to have one for every single account that you have. I mean, I look in my password manager, I think I have like 300 accounts in there still. So it's kind of impractical to do something like that. But there are also interesting features, like you can add extensions onto your email address in Google that can act as specific identifiers for which account that you're logging into still, right? So you could use something like that to sort of differentiate them, or you could, use domain aliases. So if you are using your own web domains for your emails, you can use different domains, but have that still all routed through the same account ultimately, right? Yeah, there are a bunch of different best practices that you can use when it comes to this. And yeah, obviously this is not meant to be taken as like a full guide or anything, just sort of a brief overview of some ideas. And yeah, you'll have to maybe go poke around the interwebs and find some more detailed guides on these subjects. But yeah, point being is that awareness, right? So okay, yeah, and where were we going after that? Still, I did have other things I wanted to say. So besides the email addresses, oh, okay, so there's a phone number. So phone numbers are actually being used a lot for authentication. This can be problematic in some senses because there's a technique known as SIM swapping, where someone can actually gain access to your phone number, like through a convoluted sort of technique that basically like swaps out the SIM card on your mobile device for theirs, right? And then they can get the text message for the authentication still. So yeah, phone number authentication should be avoided as a primary means. And yeah, ideally it's paired up with a second method of authentication still. A pin or a password or something like that. And again, one that, staying on top of things, so yeah, steps here to take, definitely, change your passwords. You do that on a schedule, rotate it, or, you can also use a tool like, there's a website called Have I Been Owned? But the owned is with a P, so PWNED, Have I Been PWNED, Have I Been Pwned or Owned? This is Leet Speak, if you know, you know. Yeah, basically that you can put your email address in there, and then it will check it against a database of known breaches and see if you have been affected, and it can recommend some steps to take there still. So, all right, I think that'll about do it for today. So yeah, go check the news, go read some guides on how to secure your accounts better, and yeah, stay safe out there. See you in the next one.